Hello, everyone. Welcome to Business Plans 101. My name is Mark Dolfini. It's so very good to see you. Very nice to meet you guys. I have got a lot of stuff to cover for today, and it's really good to have you. Good to have you join us here. We've already got a few people stacked up and joining us. So yeah, if you see me wearing a sweatshirt today, it's because I am in the Midwest, and it is very cold out. For those of you in the U.S., it was I think 14 degrees when we woke up, and the wind was blowing like 50 miles an hour. So the wind chill's like well below zero. For those of you who are in the rest of the world who don't use Fahrenheit, but Celsius, it's probably like minus, I don't know, like minus 10 degrees Celsius, and then add the wind chill on top of that. So it's a chilly one out there. All right, let me know where you are from. We've got people from all over the place. If you see me looking, and if you've been here before, first of all, I want to welcome you. If this is your first time with me, I'm humbled that you are spending your afternoon with me or evening with me, wherever you're joining from. We've got a few people joining from Paris. Is it Nagma? Oh, hang on a second. Let me just put this up on the screen. Nagma, I am joining from Paris, and my background is in home appliance industry. I was a senior executive. Very good. Well, glad that you could join us today. We've got let's see here, someone else from France, a spatial planner. Excellent. Okay, very good. We've got John from Tanzania, Africa, working in a clothing shop. Very good. Benjamin joining from Winnipeg, starting a business. Excellent. You're in the right spot, and this is going to help you with the things we're going to be talking about today. Is it John? I'm sorry. Yeah, looks like John. It's going to be. I'm sorry. That was Benjamin. That was right. Winnipeg, starting a business. So the things we're going to be learning today is going to help you to help organize your thoughts in terms of what things that you're going to want to be working on first and foremost. Yep, absolutely. Thank you, John. We're here to encourage each other, and definitely working on an Etsy shop. Excellent. Chosy. Oh yeah, Chosy. Hey, I recognize your name. It's good to see you. You're in you in Maine? I feel like you're in Maine, if I remember right. Should have your book by now, Chosy. Chosy ordered a book, so all right. Let's see. Akua joining from the UK. Hello. We've got Ritzwan, senior manager in IT integration company. Excellent, very good. And a few other people, and then we're gonna get started. Joining from Ireland, originally from PA. Oh, from Philly. Oh wow, that has got to be different. Joining from Ireland. Thought it said Iceland for a hot second. I work in HR recruitment, but started my own dog grooming kenneling business. Excellent. Good for you, Kat. Yes. Hello again, Josie. It's good to see you. Yes. No book yet. No book yet. Really? You should definitely have it. I think probably by tomorrow, because I sent it out right prior to Christmas. So I'll bet you that's probably, yeah. You should definitely have it. If not, let me know, because I got a tracker on that. Want to travel to Ireland in January? Connect with an Irish. All right. So there's John. Yep, it looks like we've got a few people from Ireland here. Ava from Florida, chronic illness and weight loss specialist practitioner. All right, there is her web address. All right, we're going to get to it. So you guys continue to network. It's really good to see you guys. And just a couple of things that we're going to hit today. So let me share my screen with you. First and foremost I forgot to do that. Hold on one second. Let me share my screen here, because what we're going to be covering is Business Plans 101, and we've got a lot to cover. And there we go. We got a lot to cover, and there is going to be a lot of information that I'm going to try to cover within the next hour. I was trying to keep this thing down to right under an hour. There's just too much information, so we'll probably go a little past the next hour. So roughly an hour from now. And what we're going to be talking about is creating a strategic business plan. And this is about creating a strategy for your life and for your business. So if you're expecting to come here and learn a lot of just individual life and business hacks, this is not that, right? There's a marked difference between strategy and tactics, and there's no shortage of tactics that's out there. So if you want to scale, if you want to grow, if you're trying to just get some clarity by having a business plan put together, that's what this is going to do for you today. So let's get to it. We are going to be taking a strategic approach. Excuse me a second. Sorry, I am dry today. I've had this space heater on in my office here, just because it is so flippin' cold outside that Yeah, everything is. I'm wearing a sweatshirt. It's chilly out. But so we're not going to get super granular. I know strategy sounds right super militant, but that's not really what that is about at all. It really is just about making sure that you are taking and applying the right things in the right order, and that's what strategy is all about. So I want to talk first and foremost about who this is for. This is either for new businesses or established businesses. And I just want you to understand that whether you have a new business or an established business, there's different reasons for you to have a business plan. And having a business plan is really important in a lot of different ways. You might be looking for funding, right? You might be looking for investors. You might just be looking for some clarity in your own business as you head into 2026. And that's going to be really critical. I often reference back to my business plan for the previous year because it's a living, breathing document. And what I'm going to be talking about specifically, and I'm going to go through my methodology and I'm going to foot that to an actual business plan that you guys can use. And I'm going to show you how to get that at the very end, where you can get a full download of this. Now, before you ask, let's see, guys, do you have video live? I'm not sure what you're asking. From Toronto, yes, I have it. Yep. Okay, so I'm not sure if you're having a video issue. But one of the things, I get this question a lot. If someone wants to just be mindful for me, is will you get the video replay? Yes, this is actually being broadcast to YouTube as well, but you will be getting the replay in your email inbox if you signed up for it. If you're watching on YouTube, obviously not, but you can, if you'd like it, you can follow me on School. I have a School community where you just want to go there and sign up for free. It's school.com/strategic boardroom. It is going to be free, and it is free for now. I may change that in the future depending on just a couple different things, honestly, depending on the quality of the folks that are joining. I want to maintain a good quality. I don't want any people in there just spamming people and trying to, just blow people up. But I do want it to maintain a high caliber group that's in there. So no disrespect to you, but I'm trying to do that, and I'm trying to do that without charging. And unfortunately, sometimes charging a few bucks kind of keeps away the crazies. So that's not what I'm trying to do here at all. I'm trying to just make sure I can provide a community for you guys. So if you guys have questions, you have a direct method of asking me questions. Yes, if you're in my coaching program, you get much more access to me. But the way it is for free for right now, I can certainly do that. The screen and reception is perfect on my end. Thank you, Rondalyn. And for me, is a black screen the same for you? Nope. Look, you might need to log back out, Nagme, and come back in. Yep. Sorry about that. Yeah, it might just be an issue on your end. So I do apologize. All right. So this is what we've got. Let's get to it right now. If you want, like I said, if you want to head over to School, let's go to the agenda. The agenda is we're going to be covering a number of different things here. We've got the framework, which is the personal and business framework. This is the framework that we're going to be talking about for putting together the business plan. Now, again, the actual business plan, I'm going to give you an entire template at the very end and show you how to download that. And you can carve it up any way that you like. But I'm going to be giving you a framework that I use to help with all the businesses that I work with and all the businesses that I've worked for. So this is a framework that I have used, and it's what I've written about in my last book, The Time Wealthy Advantage. So we're going to be talking about that framework. Then we're going to be talking about the people. There's a people component that is absolutely critical when you're thinking about putting a business plan together. And so you've got to think about the people component, the human component, and of course the 4 core functions, which are true in every single business. And that is true in no matter if it's, whatever stage of business that you're in, you have to think of these 4 core functions. They are true in every single business. I don't care what kind of business it is. And then scaling this business, right? Many people often want to have growth. There is a difference between growth and scaling, but really right now it's just really being set to scale. And that's what all of that stuff is going to be preparing you for when you get to level 4. And then the 5th bullet point that we're going to be talking about today is actual different resources to set you up for success beyond today. So we're going to take an approach here around, first and foremost, is the systems, right? I look at a systems approach and a psychology approach. It's about systems and psychology. First and foremost, we're going to be talking about the systems. And the systems, everything that I talk about in the systems is going to be related to what I have written about in this book. And this book is back here on my shelf. You can see it. It's called the Time Wealthy Advantage. If you live outside the US and you'd like to get a copy of it, my best recommendation is to go on Amazon. You're going to get it way faster, and that's probably the best pricing that you're going to get that you can offer. If you are inside the United States and you'd like to get a copy of it, you can get a copy from strategicboardroom.com, and there's some additional bonuses that I will give you as well. I can sign it and also give you some bonuses. So like my friend Chosi here. Chosi, I'm a little sad that you don't have my book yet. That's not your fault. That's my fault. I could not get to the post office until last week. So, but you will have it in your hot hands here pretty soon. So what we're going to be talking about from this book here is the Viper Framework. And this Viper Framework is specific to life. It's a life and business framework in this Viper methodology. So this is very specific to people who are business owners, and it is a life and business framework. It is the framework that I have used, and it's not just for businesses. It's for you as a business owner. It's for you as an entrepreneur. And you're going to understand that here in a second, why it's not just about the business. It's about you as the individual and the business. And this is one of the only frameworks that I've ever seen that includes both the business and you as the individual. Because let's face it, if you, the individual, are a hot mess, it's going to be kind of hard to be building a business at the same time. So it does bring in both components of both personal and business. And that's really the main differentiator between the Viper methodology and all the different business methodologies I've seen out there. So let's look at this. The Viper framework Viper is an acronym for vision, infrastructure, process, execution, and reporting. And we're going to go through each of these 5 functions here as time goes on. So you're going to want to stay plugged in for all of these, and we're going to get a little granular on each one of these items. And we're going to start first and foremost with vision. So vision, first and foremost, is there's 2 components to vision. And in vision, there is personal vision and there's business vision. Now, personal vision and business vision, you got to keep in mind which of these 2 things is coming first. Which of these things are coming first, right? Personal vision. Personal vision is coming first. And the reason it's coming first is because the business exists to serve you, not the other way around. So when you think about your personal vision first, right, it's just a simple question. If you're thinking of the primary question of what is vision about, vision is like, where do you want to go? Where do you want to go in life? If your life wasn't defined by income generation, what would that look like for you, right? Sorry, someone's saying that they're having trouble hearing me. Can you guys hear me okay? Yep. Okay, hold on a second. Okay, yep. Looks like it might just... Okay, yep. Okay, very good. So the personal question is, where do you want to go? And then the business vision question is, all right, cool. Now that you've decided where you want to go, if your life wasn't defined by income generation, your business vision is going to say, cool, how are you going to get there? Right? So now we're going to reverse engineer this business that's going to serve you as the individual. And here's the interesting thing. I've worked with a lot of entrepreneurs. I've worked with a lot of business owners. I've sat in, I don't even know, hundreds of masterminds at this point. And it's interesting. I would sit next to people who are making 6 and 7 figures a month net, and they were miserable because they were confusing achievement for fulfillment, and they were never getting there, and they never developed a personal vision. Everything was revolving around this business vision. And the danger in that is when you create a business vision before you create a personal vision is that you end up creating a life that exists to serve the business. And I'm just telling you, that sucks. Like the business is never going to love you back as much as you love it. So I spent most of my 20s and part of my 30s doing that. And you're thinking, well, how old is this guy? I'm in my early 50s now, 53. And yes, I've got it. For those of you who know, we've got a 20-year-old, a 17-year-old, and a 3-year-old. And yep, I did not do the math on that when I was 50, thinking, yeah, we should totally have another kid. But no, she's absolutely blessed. But the thing is, I spent so much of that time that I'm never going to get back chasing and loving this business that never loved me as much as I loved it. So I really want to encourage you, and especially for those of you who are younger, that maybe if you're under 30 or under 35 and you're thinking, yeah, let me make that $100,000 a month and then I'll worry about that life thing. And unfortunately, that doesn't always come. In fact, it actually seldom comes when that is the thing that you're also chasing. And this is the same path that these guys who are making 6 and 7 figures a month, who were ironically enough in their 40s and 50s and sometimes in their 60s. And guess what they were chasing? They were chasing the next digit. They were chasing the next comma in their portfolio. I'm just saying it's an empty well that never gets filled up. So when you're looking at your personal vision, I'm just going to spend a minute or two on this, and then I promise we're going to get to the business vision stuff. But the personal vision is, one of the things I like to think about is coming up with your 100th birthday speech. And like, again, pretend you're turning 100 years old and you're thinking, okay, here I am, I'm turning 100, and I want you to think about this. Who would you want to be in the room? You're turning 100. What would you say? Who would you want to be in the room? What would be the message that you would want others to say to you when you were done? Like, oh my gosh, grandma, grandpa, that was amazing, right? But more importantly, what would be the message that you would want them to carry outside the room when you were done talking? All those are really important questions for you to ask yourself. And you might be thinking, for some of you, again, if you're in your 20s or 30s and you're thinking, man, that is just so abstract. I can't, man, that's 70 years from now. I'm not going to think when I'm 100. Okay, fine. Think about your next milestone. Think about your next milestone. And right, so something that in the psychology world, right now I'm in a psychology program to get my PhD, and in the psychology world, that's called future self discontinuity, right? So you look at your future self almost like that person is a stranger. So if you have a difficulty in thinking that that's just too far removed for you, start to think about your next milestone, right? Let's say that you're 42 right now and your next milestone might be when you're 50. Maybe you're in your mid 30s and you think, okay, the next milestone might be when my kid graduates from high school, right? Something along those lines might be a really good milestone for you to consider for your personal vision. Hey, Damani, good to see you. Glad you could join us. Okay, so when we talk about personal vision, now we're going to talk about business vision. Let's look at the 3 C's of business vision. Now, the 3 C's of business vision, remember, this is all in the context of you guys creating a business plan. So the business planning, this is going to look different than what I'm going to show you right now. Okay, so can we agree that what I'm showing you right now is different than a business plan? But what you're doing by learning this stuff and by thinking about this stuff now is that you're going to be creating a framework. You're going to be getting base information that you're going to plug into the appropriate parts of the business plan. Does that make sense? Let me know that makes sense in the comments, because that is really, really important. The stuff that I'm going to be talking about right here, especially the 3 C's of business vision, because the 3 C's of business vision is absolutely foundational for everything else in your business. So let's go through the 3 C's of business vision. Those are core purpose, core values, and client avatar. Core purpose, core values, and client avatar. Let's unpack core purpose. The core purpose is specifically what business are you in and what problems do you solve? And it's really important that you be as specific as possible. If you just say, well, I'm in the real estate business, okay, that doesn't tell me much. If you say, well, I'm in the real estate business in Cincinnati, Ohio, okay, it's getting better, but Cincinnati is a pretty good sized city. If you say that you're in the Cincinnati market, you're in the real estate market, you're a realtor that does residential properties on the south side of Cincinnati, but doesn't cross over into Kentucky, I'm thinking, okay, I think I get a better understanding of what it is that you do, right? And you could probably even carve that up even more. You like working with first-time home buyers, right? And these sorts of things. We'll talk about client avatar here in a second. But it's really important that you get this dialed in thank you, Damani. It's really important that you get this dialed in here first and foremost, because this is, for most people, they think it's dialed in until I start asking them some questions, and then they realize it's not as dialed in as they think. If someone were to ask you what it is that you do and you can't say that very, very clearly, very specifically, like for me in Strategic Boardroom, fundamentally, I save business owners time, because I spend a great deal of time researching, referencing, reading, and bringing information to them as their strategist, so they don't have to do all the reading and researching everything else that I do. That's what I do. As their strategist, it's my job to know as much information as possible so I can bring that to them like they are the president of the United States. I'm basically just the Joint Chief of Staff, right? Like I am the chairman. And that's what I do. I don't have full power, but the president does. You do. And as your strategist, as your chief strategist, that's what I do for you. So this is important. Having that clarity in terms of what is it you do, there's real power in that. And just saying, well, I'm in IT or I build websites. Okay, you're getting there, but that doesn't tell me much. So it's really important that you get really, really specific in your core purpose, as specific as you possibly can. Now, let's talk about core values. Core values is what matters to you about this business, and how would the world be worse off if you went out of business? I can't tell you how important core values is to a company, especially if it's going to be one that you're going to be trying to grow later on. If you're going to be bringing people into your organization, which, by the way, for those of you trying to scale something, meaning I don't just mean grow is kind of linear, scale is exponential, right? If you're going to be scaling something, you have to bring people into your organization. And what I mean by that is because, like, you can only do so many things. You can't do all the things that need to get done. You have to rely on other people. Now, that might not necessarily be employees. That might mean vendors. That might mean some subcontractors. That might be somebody else. But when you define the company core values, that is really going to be important for you, because when you're defining your company core values, that's what defines company culture. And when you're defining company culture and company brand are inextricably linked. There's just no getting around that. And if you don't take the time to really get clear on what your company culture is, your company culture will get defined. The unfortunate thing is it's going to be defined by the strongest personality that's in the room, generally when you're not around. How would you like that? How would you like your company culture being defined by someone else? And what if that person is a narcissist, right? Like, this is why it's important that company cultures are defined by the leaders. So this is where you need to take time. Now, you might be thinking, well, how do I define my core values? Well, your core values are defined by you. Think about that. Your core values are defined by you. Has anybody ever had someone who was in their life that wandered off the reservation, right? It might have been someone you were romantically involved in. It might have been a friend, might have been a family member, right? Do you ever have that person that they started acting in a certain way that where they were just not doing the things that they should have been doing? You're like, oh my gosh, dude, you're heading down a path I can't follow. Has anybody ever had that? The violation of a core value is how you know, like, when you're willing to get up and act, that's how you know there's a violation of a core value. So that's how, like, we have many values, but we have only a few certain core values, things that we're really willing to get up off the couch and act on, right? I love peanut M&Ms, but I'm not willing to go to war over them, right? Dude, take my peanut M&Ms. That's not a big deal. You break into my house, we're going to war, right? That's a difference, right? So I'm just saying there's a core value there, because me protecting my family is a big deal. So this is where I want you to start thinking. So is any of this making sense in terms of core values? I want you to take the time, set aside some of these things. And a lot of times it's easy to think of in the extremes, right? In the extremes of, like, you know, when you had to let someone go in a relationship, or when something was just so amazing that you would love to replicate it. What was something, a situation that you would love to replicate if you could? Those are generally where your core values, those limits are where your core values are defined. Yes, definitely. All right. Thank you, Damani. Anybody else out there? I see a bunch of people on there, but no one else is responding. All right. So I just want to make sure that you guys are getting this, because this isn't theory. This isn't hypothetical. The best businesses are the ones with the best defined company culture. And I'm not talking about, you know, the Netflixes of the world or anything along those lines. I'm not talking about the Southwest Airlines of the world. Thank you, Chosi. Thank you, Miriam. I'm talking about companies that are right around the corner, that are probably knocking it down, probably making $1 million a month, that people in your town would love to work for, but they are not anywhere close to doing an IPO, right? These are just really good businesses, very well run, because the core values are very clear about what they're about, even if they're not necessarily written down, but you are going to write them down. All right, so we talked about core purpose, we talked about core values, now let's talk about client avatar. Client avatar is who specifically, and ideally do you want to serve? Who specifically and ideally do you want to serve? And this is important because, again, this is foundational for everything else you're going to do in your marketing. So if you don't know who you're going to service, it's going to be really, really difficult. If you don't know who you're trying to attract, it's going to be really, really difficult. So for those of you, it's interesting that for those of you who signed up for this, and many of you came through Eventbrite, many of you are looking for help with entrepreneurial endeavors. Guess what? That's because I was trying to attract you. I'm not trying to be weird about it. I'm trying to be transparent here. I was trying to attract you, and then maybe some of you might even buy some stuff. That's okay. And if you don't, that's okay. But the point is that I know who I'm trying to attract. If I was just saying, well, anybody who out there would love to be on a webinar, that makes no sense. But I was specific in terms of the title, Business Plans 101. I knew that that was important because I've researched my avatar. And again, I'm not trying to be weird here. I'm trying to be authentic. This is the sort of thing that you have to do. And sometimes you put stuff out there that's a complete turd. That's okay. I've failed way more than I've gotten it right, and I've still done pretty well in my life. So this is where you have to be really specific and like who specifically ideally do you want to serve, and what are their geographics, their demographics, and their psychographics. Where do they live, right? The geographics is, again, pretty straightforward, where they are. The demographics is who they are, right? Are they married? Are they single? Are they wealthy? Are they poor? Right? Are they educated? Are they not? So forth and so on. And their psychographics is how they think and how they buy. How they think and how they buy. And it's important that you take the time to go through these things here to make and really think about who it is that you want to serve and how you want to serve them through your core purpose. Okay, so those three things, I can't make it any simpler, but I'm telling you that many people are going to go through this and they're not going to do anything around these 3 C's of business vision. You've got to have all 3 of these. But in terms of the psychographics is how they think and how they buy. And when you start to think about psychographics, I want you to think of the phrase ALIA. That's ALIA. Their attitudes, their lifestyles, their interests, and their aspirations and goals. Take the time and go through this, not right now, don't multitask, but stay plugged in. But at some point, I want you to think about what are their attitudes on life? What are their thoughts on politics? Do they read? Do they like watching NASCAR? Do they like watching, soccer, or do they like watching American football, right? See what I did there? So, but like, what I'm saying is these are the sorts of things that are important, that once you understand what things that interest them, you have different ways to reach them. Okay? So this is why it's important for you to take that time and get really clear on that. All right. So those are the 3 C's of business vision: core purpose, core values, and client avatars. So let me do a pulse check. Is everybody understanding here? Go ahead and write in, core, like which one of these things out of these 3, which one of these things you really feel like you have dialed in? Just out of these 3, which one of these 3 do you feel like you have dialed in? Do you have core purpose dialed in, core values dialed in, or client avatar, or none of them, right? You've got some work to do. This will give me an opportunity to take a drink. So let me know in the chat which one of these 3 that you feel like you have the most dialed in, that you feel like this really, really clear. All right. I'll wait for that. I'll check back with you guys in a second. So that is the core, that is the business, that is the vision, right? That is personal vision and that is business vision. So, Ronaldin is saying core values. Okay. You got your core values dialed in. Excellent. Damani, core values, I guess core purpose. Okay. When you say, I guess, that maybe you have some work to do, Libna, that's okay. All right. Very good. So you guys know, and that's okay. Build on what's good, and then just start building on the other parts to make the rest of it better. All right. All right. I suppose core avatar, client avatar. Okay. Yes. Work to do. I'm not realizing I have a lot to work on, but most dialed in for me is probably client avatar. Okay. Very good. Rural Ireland, so local clients. Excellent. Core values, Nagma. Okay, very good. Core values is my identity. That's exactly right, Damani. Core values is your identity. That's the whole point. Is your business is just an extension of you, right? You can't make a business that doesn't have anything to do with you. That's weird, right? It doesn't make sense. Okay. Okay, excellent. Thank you, guys. So let's look at the next piece of this which is infrastructure. Infrastructure is the bones of the business. It's the desks, it's the chairs, it's the software, it's things that are just basically the gears of your business, right? And these are all the things that most people just don't really want to think about, right? It's the desks and chairs, the computers, the software, the phone systems, right? Websites and stuff like that. And this is just the basic infrastructure that your business will run on. And things like payment processing and your accounting software and things like that no one really ever gives any thought to until I actually need it. And they go, oh yeah, I guess I need to set some money aside for that, right? This is where I want you to start thinking about this stuff now. So why does vision come first? Why does vision come before infrastructure? Well, the reason vision becomes before infrastructure is, remember, what's the main circuit breaker that we're looking at here? The main circuit breaker that we're looking at is personal vision. This whole thing exists for your personal vision, right? So the reason vision comes first is because let's say that Chosi, in part of her vision, is to lay on the beach for 2 months out of the year rubbing cocoa butter on her belly. Okay, it's a fine vision. The thing is, if she designs an infrastructure that requires her to return emails and phone calls in a timely manner, that's going to be a terrible experience for her when she's trying to lay on the beach rubbing cocoa butter on her belly. Okay, so this is why I want you to give some thought to infrastructure after you've created the vision. Is that making sense? All right, so think about infrastructure. Think about vision first, personal vision, business vision. Then you're going to be reverse engineering that infrastructure that's going to be with that mind of your vision for the future. So you're going to create the infrastructure that's in alignment with that vision for the future. Sorry if I said that wrong. So the Viper method, again, we talked about vision, we talked about infrastructure. Let's talk about process. Process is simply how you do stuff. And it's really not that complex, right? It's just kind of how you do stuff from a day to day, right? And then that's the tactical stuff, right? So there's tactical component to process and there's a strategic component to process. Let's talk about tactical. Tactical, like I said, is just basically how you do stuff from a day-to-day perspective. Your standard operating procedures, right? For any of my military folks out there, you know what I'm talking about. Your standard operating procedures. Those are the sorts of things that you have. Your checklists. I'm going to come back to your question in just a second, Vinny. It's your checklist items. It's your day-to-day things that you do, like your opening procedures, your closing procedures, how you answer the phone, how you prepared bank deposits, all of those things that are really important from a day-to-day perspective. And it's all the boring stuff that no one ever wants to take the time to actually document, right? So this is how you think about in terms of process. On the other side of process, so let me just, before I move on, I'm going to draw a box around infrastructure and tactical process. For those of you who are the systems people out there, this is the system right here. That little box, infrastructure and process, that's the systems piece of the Viper framework. So I just want you to think about this because now with this system, what in essence we've created is a boat. We've created this warship, this battleship, right? And now we don't want to just sit in the harbor, right? Now we want to take this process and we want to be strategic with it, right? Because that's what strategic planning does, is it takes this battleship, this system, takes this warship, and now we're just going to take it out of the harbor. Because we don't want it to sit in the harbor, just get blown around and battered against the dock by the economic winds of whatever happens to blow through, right? We want to get out there and make some trouble, right? That's what strategic planning does, okay? So let me answer Vinny's question. I'm going to put you up on the screen here, Vinny, because it is a long one. I have a question. Is it common for business to update and change any of the 3 C's, like when they are able to finally scale? Or should the vision be broad enough to where no matter how big the company gets, or for example, the customers they target were wrong primarily, it shouldn't necessarily be changed or updated? This is a fantastic question, Vinny, and I love this because you're thinking, right? You're thinking like, hey, should this ever evolve? Absolutely, yes, it should evolve, but based on data, not just wandering around. So I'm going to take this question down because it's a lot. But you are going to be thinking and revisiting your 3 C's from time to time. And I have done that very thing from about once a year, maybe once every 2 years or so. I start looking at the strategic direction. But what's the main circuit breaker that I'm looking at? Main circuit breaker is my personal vision. For example, for those of you who've ever had a child, do you think my life got a little different when we had a baby at 50 years old? Now, my bride was 37, but do you think life got a little different? Yeah, it did. But we were very intentional about having a child at that point in time. She was not like a whoops at all. We were intentional about trying to get pregnant again. The thing is that because my personal vision evolved, my business vision also evolved. I had a lot of people that wanted me to travel to them and do strategic consulting work and pay me a lot of money, sometimes just under, high 5 figures, sometimes 6-figure dollars to do that kind of work. And in the beginning, I thought it wasn't going to change anything. And guess what? Then it did. And it did because it was no longer in alignment with my personal vision. I wanted to be home more. I want to be around and raise my daughter, right? We raised two sons, and if I could go back and do things differently, I would love to, but I can't do that. But I want to be around for her more than I was for my boys when I was in my late 30s. So to answer your question, does it evolve? Yes. But if you're evolving it every month, that's not so good. If you're starting it out in the beginning where you're thinking, okay, I'm trying to work through my core values, my client avatar, and my core purpose. As you start to get into some marketing and you realize like, okay, I can't differentiate myself well enough, and differentiation is the key. I'm kind of going off script here, so just give me a little bit of latitude. But if I'm going, the main key here is not being a Me Too product or service. Hear me again. The key here is not being a Me Too product or service. You might, like, people often refer to me as a business coach, and I get that because I do help them with lots of business things, and sometimes I do business coaching, right? That's a methodology that I will use. It's more of a framework or a method than necessarily a title. But I get people who call me coach, just more of a term of endearment than anything else. But I'm not a coach. And the reason for that is because I'm a strategist. And as a strategist, I have created a very specific Viper framework where I use to help people strategically grow their businesses. So I absolutely am differentiated in my market. Do people want to hire me as a coach? Sure, if that's what they want. But generally, I work differently as a strategist. And that is really, really important. It's an important distinction that you need to make, that if you get into a market and you are going to be a Me Too product or service, and the only thing that you can differentiate yourself is on price, I'm telling you, it's a race to the bottom. My suggestion is I don't ever want to compete on price. I do want to compete on being first to the market, being a leader of the market, my leadership, my product or service offering. I want to be a differentiator in my market. And if I can't, then that's not a market that I want to be in. So good, really, really good question. Those things do evolve and will evolve as the business evolves. So fantastic question. I really, really like that. You will get this email to you, Ava. Yes. Yes, you will get an email to you. So that is a really, really good question. So this goes right in hand with what we're talking about here with strategic planning, because in strategic planning, my mouse decided to stop working. There we go. In strategic planning, there's three components, which is people, purpose, and promotion. Now, when you're thinking about people, purpose, and promotion, I don't have a lot of time to get into each one of these three things on a real deep level, but you are going to need a people component to your strategic planning. What people are you going to need? Because the reality is you're one person. You might need other people to sell for you because you're not a great salesman. Maybe you're really good at marketing, but you're not good at sales. You're not good at closing. Maybe you're good at doing the thing that is you do. You're a really good roofer. You're a really good website maker. You're really good at consulting, but you're not really great at lead gen or sales, right? This is where you might need other people to help you in other areas because you're just not good at it, right? So this is where you start to think of the people that you're going to need, but you're also going to be thinking about who? Your client avatar. This is where you start to align your strategic planning towards the people you're most trying to attract. And that might be a segment of your client avatar. So again, I like working with married couples. They tend to be people of faith, right? And so that's important to me, and generally that's important to them. So generally married couples who have kids at home that are in business for themselves, that are usually very time weary. Well, when you write a book or a series of books called The Time Wealthy Investor or The Time Wealthy Advantage, which I have, most people go, oh my gosh, I want to be time wealthy because I just don't have enough time to do anything, right? And that's the thing that tears apart love more than anything else is not hate. The thing that tears apart love more than anything is hurry. So that's what I'm about. It's about bringing time wealth back into people's lives and getting them in control of their calendar. So the people that I might be looking for in that particular time might be people who have really young kids at home, or maybe they're empty nesters, or maybe they're just single, right? Maybe I want to segment that market. So I want to think about the people that I'm going after necessarily, or what I'm planning for in my strategic plan. What is the purpose of my strategic plan? That could be to gain market share. That could be to launch a new product or service, right? Maybe it's for something completely different, but whatever that is, what is the purpose of the strategic plan? And this also has to align with what? What does this have to align with? The purpose, the strategic purpose. What does it have to align with? It has to align with the core purpose, back in the 3 C's of business vision, right? You see how this is all starting to come full circle? This has to align with the strategic purpose, has to align with the core purpose, because again, if the core purpose, let's say that you're Starbucks and you want to start selling chainsaws, does that make any sense? Would it make any sense for Starbucks to start selling chainsaws? They're like, no, well, no, we can make money at it. We can make money. And you're like, dude, I don't want my latte served on the end of a, of a chainsaw, right? That doesn't attract me at all, right? So again, that's why the core purpose and the strategic purpose have to be in alignment. Otherwise, you can create confusion. Remember this, when it comes to your marketing, when it comes to your sales, the confused mind will always say no. So this is why it's really important that you are really clear about your core purpose, your core values, and your client avatar. You have got to be dialed in, because it doesn't magically get more clear from when it leaves your lips to when it hits their ears. It doesn't happen. If anything, it gets more muddy, not less clear, or not more clear. So that is the core purpose. The last piece of this is promotion. Promotion is just letting the world know. It's just blabbing about it. It's letting, once this plan is conceived, it is letting people inside your organization and outside your organization know all about it. So this is outside your organization. You might need to be communicating with your vendors. You might need to be communicating with your avatar, right? The people through your marketing efforts, right? You might need to be communicating with your suppliers. That would be important. And what about internally? Internally would be communicating with the people who are working with you, right? Well, that might be vendors as well, but also would be your subcontractors, the people who are actually doing the work, or your employees. And you have to repeat yourself quite often. So that is the strategic planning. It involves people, purpose, and promotion. So we're rounding the turn here on process. We talked tactical, strategic. Now let's talk about execution. Execution, this isn't something you generally put in a business plan, but it is important for you to think about now. Now, execution, and the reason why I put this up on the screen, a good plan violently executed now is better than the perfect plan executed next week by General Patton, is I know a lot of business owners who are always like just getting ready to get ready, and they don't take any meaningful execution. They don't take any meaningful action. And the reality is that, most plans fall apart in their execution. And that's mostly because there are business owners out there who have way too many priorities. And having way too many priorities has the same impact as having no priorities. So again, for those of you out there who have your, to-do list items of like 37 to-do list items, right? That is you. Again, if I had 3 hands, I'd put them all up, because that's what happens, right? You get too many priorities on there. Your to-do list of 71 items that you're going to get done today, right? And again, I'm not asking anybody to indict themselves, but that is what happens. So give me 1 second, Anthony. I'll come back to your question. So what we're doing here by establishing these priorities is by coming up with a daily 5, and the daily 5 is up to 5 very specific items that you're going to be doing that's just going to move the needle towards your vision or your strategic plan. One of the two. So again, up to 5. For me, I like 3. 3 highly specific actions that I can take that are needle movers towards my vision. So what do I mean? Do I mean like check email, check voicemail? No, I mean something far more specific. This right here is part of my daily 3. Like having this webinar. I've got another one at 6:30 tonight. If you guys want to join me, I think that is financial literacy. So you just go back on Eventbrite and you can sign up for that one. But the point is, I've got very specific things that I'm doing that are alignment, that are needle movers towards my vision, towards my strategic plan. So this is why I want you to be really, really clear about what those things are, and not just being really super vague. Because one other thing real quick, and this is just a piece of research that I learned in my PhD studies, is that there's a difference, especially for people who have ADHD. Where are my ADHD brothers and sisters out there? I'm one of them, so it's cool if you are. But it's interesting because I was reading a study, that people who there's two different brands. It used to be ADD and ADHD. Now it's just all ADHD. Vinny, he's got a smiley face. So for those of you, and this was interesting, that 60% of ADHD people are primarily inattentive. So they have attention problems, whereas 40% have impulsive that are impulsive. Okay, impulsivity. So they're impulsive on one side and they're inattentive on the other. Now, is it possible for people to have one or the other or both? Yes, it is entirely possible. But it's interesting that the people who actually have the most trouble taking action are not the impulsive ones. They're actually usually the ones jumping out of the airplane and building the parachute on the way down. Right? Is that you? No, that's not generally me. I'm usually on the other side where I'm primarily inattentive and I don't take action as quickly as I probably should. I've gotten better for sure, but I just want to let you know that if attention is part of your issue, you may need to move faster than you feel comfortable. And I do feel like knowing about it definitely would help. So really, really interesting bit of data there. Me. Okay, thank you, Kat. Appreciate it. All right, let's get to Anthony's question real quick. Let's see here. As soon as I find my mouse here. There we go. All right. Anthony says, what's your perspective on people who succeed without business plans versus people who spend more time on business plans? So what I think, Anthony, is, do you need a business plan to be successful? No. Some people, I actually saw it was a short video with Elon Musk, and he didn't put any stock in business plans. But Elon Musk is the exception in a lot of ways. I'm not really a fan of Elon Musk. Like, I think he's done some pretty amazing things. I think he did get a little lucky on certain things for sure. But he's a brilliant man for sure. But when he says, I don't really see any value in business plans, that's because the way he thinks, he kind of already thinks through all the things that the rest of us mere mortals have to put down on paper. So I think the perspective here, I think it's a good question, but for me, I like having it on a piece of paper, and I'll tell you why. It kind of goes back to the ADHD conversation I had 30 seconds ago, is because if I don't have it written down on a piece of paper, my mind will play tricks on me, and I will swear that the thing I wrote down yesterday was not the thing I wrote down, right? Or the thought that I had yesterday, or how many new ideas I'm going to have standing in the shower, right? That's what a business plan does, is it kind of locks things in. And I think that is especially helpful for especially people who are the more visionary type. And that's great. That's one of the great things about being, someone who has got ADHD or, is a visionary, is you have a lot of great ideas. But the thing is which one of those are you going to implement on, and how are you going to implement it? So I think a business plan actually does benefit people in that it tends to get them to agree upon a strategic direction they're going to try, rather than wandering, rather than try this for a little bit and then try this for a little bit. They're going to commit to a strategic course of action. That's what I feel about a business plan. I think there's a real benefit to it. So hopefully that helps. All right. So this is the last piece of the Viper methodology, which is sorry, my mouse keeps unplugging. The last piece is the reporting piece in the Viper methodology. So we talk about lead metrics and lag metrics. All we're doing here is measuring what happened. When it comes to lead metrics and lag metrics, basically what you're looking at is your lead metrics are based on your actions and activities, and your lag metrics are based on the results of those activities. And that's it. If you're not getting the results that you want, you just need to look at one thing. You just need to look at your actions and activities. And sometimes you need to say, well, have I done enough? Do I have enough data points to say that I need to pivot? Or, let's say I've done, 30 phone calls and they're not working. You need to have 1,000 or 1,500 data points before you can even think about pivoting. So this is why I'm saying a lot of people don't commit far enough to get at those 1,000 data points before they start to pivot. Usually, or they'll get bored. I hear that all the time. Look, business is boring. And just like working out is boring, but there's a lot of people who work out all the time, and that's why they don't need to work out. So the people who commit and do the same thing over and over, just like, again, mastery is about doing a lot of the same things over and over and over. And I don't know how you achieve mastery without potentially being bored. So that's just the reality of that. So, but this is the reporting function around lead metrics and lag metrics. And the only thing that you have any real direct control over is your lead metrics, your actions and activities. All right. So that is the Viper framework. Anthony, let's see here. Hang on one second here. Okay. Based on your experiences and observations, what are the approaches business owners do to run their business? Based on your, what are the approaches business owners? I'm not sure what your question is. What approaches business owners do to run their business? I'm not sure your question. Maybe you can reword that a little bit. I apologize. Yeah, I'm not picking up what you're saying. It's like doing a math problem and not knowing how to write the steps, how he got there. For others, it's how to write it to see it. That's exactly right, Alexandria, in terms of the business plan, right? For me, I was always the one that had to show the work. That way, if I walked it back, I knew what it was that I was looking at. And that's why I wouldn't change. I can look at a business plan that I put together and using this framework, I can look back and go, oh, well, this is in alignment with my vision, right? Lubna, yes, sometimes we do things unconsciously as part of the process without formally organizing or refining them. Yeah, that's exactly right. Damani, motivation and effort is awful. You do what's uncomfortable until it becomes comfortable. Yep, habit systems have changed my life. That's exactly right, Damani. Yeah, that's exactly right. Okay, thanks. You guys are a chatty bunch. I really enjoy all the input today. It makes it more fun for me because sometimes I'm like, man, like, is this thing on? And, but everyone's still there, but no one's saying much. I like that you guys are very very dialed in today. All right, so that's the systems component. This will start to pick up a little bit. Now we're going to get into the psychology side of it, and this is lessons on management and leadership. So we talked about systems. Now we're going to talk about psychology. And systems are important, but they're only going to get you so far. And they're important because they offer stability, they offer consistency, they offer accountability, right? They're great for that. But systems are limited in that they don't necessarily make great subjective decisions or adapting to rapid market changes. Like, look what's going on in the silver market right now. It's super crazy what's going on, right? Like, it's jumping by $10 or $20 a day, which is nuts, right? It never jumps that much. So coming up with creative solutions is not really what systems are for. And really also maintaining human connections. That's not really what a system does. I mean, you can use it to a certain degree, but maintaining a human connection is not really what a system does, right? So when you're talking about psychology, we're talking about personal and individual psychology, and we're talking about business and organizational psychology. So when you're talking about personal psychology, you're thinking about things like self-worth and self-management and limiting beliefs. Those are your individual psychology, and we're not really going to unpack much of that today. That's stuff that I do work with folks on when I'm coaching them directly. But on this other side, especially for business planning, you want to think about the external component and the internal component of business and organizational psychology. So let's unpack that just a little bit. When you're looking at business psychology, the external and the internal, right? The external things are your buyers, your vendors, even politics to a certain degree is things that you have to consider. When you're talking about or thinking about internal business psychology, you're thinking about things like management and leadership. And management and leadership are not the same thing. Management is about differences, and leadership is about unity and unification behind a common message. And those are two very, very different things. But far and away, more than any other thing that I would want you to focus on is leadership. And the way that I look at leadership is there's a 3 pillars model of leadership that I have developed. And it's around these 3 very basic things. It's around trust, it's around vision, and around communication. And here's why this is so important. I'm not going to unpack all of this right now, but trust, vision, and communication, you have to have all 3. And it's not just, I'm not like coming up with a list of leadership traits, right, or leadership behaviors, but these are things that have to be foundational for you to be effective as a leader. If people don't trust you, it won't matter that you have a compelling vision or that you're a great orator. They won't care. They don't trust you, and they're not going to follow you. If they may trust you, but if you don't have and you might be able to be a really good, you might have a silver tongue, right? You might be a master communicator, but if you're not bringing them in any real strategic direction because you have no vision, that's going to be a problem, and you're going to be ineffective as a leader. And finally, if you have their trust and you have a vision, a clear vision, but you can't communicate it well, or you communicate with using nothing but F-bombs, or really just a bad communicator in general, or you don't communicate often enough, again, you're not going to be an effective leader. All 3 of these are absolutely critical. And I have looked at all sorts of different models, not just in the popular press with John Maxwell and all of these different authors, but But also in my studies, in the PhD program that I'm in, it really focuses on leadership. And these three components of leadership, if you don't have these three components, you will not be as effective as a leader. And it's held up time and time again the more I've looked at it. So does leadership really matter though? Like, does it really matter? Well, the next book that I'm writing is actually called The Time Wealthy Leader Boss. And it's really about a component of both caring and candor. And for any of you who are currently running a business now, I want you to think about this, is that when you're too nice as a boss, how many of you are like those nice bosses, right? But when you're too nice as a boss, when you have too much caring, people will walk all over you. If you don't have enough candor, right? Or if you have too much candor and not enough caring, people are going to treat you like a tyrant, and they're not going to do any more discretionary effort. They're not going to give you one more minute of time because they're just like, screw that guy. I don't like him, right? He doesn't care about me. You have to have an equal mix of both caring and candor to be an effective boss. And that's what the Leader Boss is actually going to be published, looking probably in the summer of 2026. So that should be out. But I'm not gonna commit to that. I want it to be a good book rather than just being done. Let's see here. Vinny is asking, is this section now for infrastructure? No, this is, so we put the fries in the bag on, so we talked about vision, infrastructure, process, execution, and reporting. That's the systems component, Vinny. This component here that we're talking about now is about leadership. So we talked about systems, now we're talking about psychology. And all of this about leadership is under the psychology piece. Okay. So hopefully that helps out. That's exactly right, Josie. Thank you. Yep. Oh, Vinny. Josie's all ahead of it. Okay, very good. Very good. All right, you guys are all ahead of that. Okay, very, very good, Benny. So really good questions, guys. Thank you. So the level 5 leader companies, for anybody who's ever read books like from Jim Collins, Good to Great, or Great by Choice, or Built to Last, any of those leader 5 or level 5 leader companies, they were significantly more profitable. They grew much faster. They had a much stronger company culture. That's surprising, right? And they had a defined set of core values. Oh my gosh, where did that come from? Right? So this is all the things that these leaders brought to the table. And this is how they integrated the 3 C's into their company, into their business, right? Their core values, core purpose, and client avatar, right? This is all really, really important. So I'm just going to use one really quick set of data here around these 4 companies, around Amgen, Intel, Microsoft, and Southwest. And this was actually came out of the book Great by Choice by, again, Jim Collins and Morton Hansen. And you can see how fast these companies grew when compared to the market. 24 times the market over the course of 30 years. Think about what $10,000 would have done if you had invested in Microsoft or Southwest compared to the overall market. 63 times the return. It's unbelievable. And keep in mind, too, that the 100 best places to work list is the ones that frequently represent the highest stock returns, because they've got people who really care, because they feel like their leaders really care about them. So leadership makes a huge difference. And if growth requires change, which it does, because let's face it, things have to change in order for them to grow, right? That's the nature of growth. Well, leadership is what manages that change. So I just want you to think about that, like why it's so important. And the reality is this: the speed of the leader is the speed of the team. So if you're someone who takes a long time to make decisions, you're going to have to get more comfortable making quicker decisions. I have done that. And 2023 was the year of reinvention for me. And the reason why I had to reinvent myself is because whether it was ADHD and I was, primarily inattentive and I didn't want to make a mistake and whatever it was, or I just had an aversion to wanting to be wrong, all the different head trash that I was carrying around, it was holding me back significantly. And to the point where I wasn't an early adopter on anything. I would just take forever to make a decision on something. And that's not a good trait of a leader. So again, the speed of the leader is the speed of the team. The team cannot outpace the leader. Think about that. If you're the leader, which everyone on here is, if you're trying to do your own thing, your team cannot go faster than you. So you're going to need to learn to make decisions a little bit faster, and it becomes a muscle. You get used to it, right? And it's okay. And the thing is, here's the really cool thing too. I just want to make this quick point, is that if you are, let me go back to this here real fast. If you're doing a lot of volume, it's like the mistakes don't matter. So a couple days ago, I did a YouTube live. I was trying this new camera out, and for some reason, there was one part of the video that there was no sound. So for 40 minutes, people saw this, me chatting, but my hands are moving, but no one could hear me. And people would jump in and they would jump out, and they would jump in and they would jump out. I'm like, man, what is going on? Why are there so many people bouncing off this? And yeah, because I messed up. But the thing is, in the grand scheme of things, and 40 videos from now, right? Is anyone going to remember? Probably not, right? That's the thing. Just have so much volume that your mistakes are irrelevant. So I just want you to think about that. All right. So on number 3 is the 4 core functions. These are true in every business. And the 4 core functions are lead generation, sales, operations, and accounting. And I want you to think about this, is that your customer's journey through your company happens in that order. And that's important. So think about in terms of lead generation, sales, operations, and accounting, because when you are thinking about your lead generation, your marketing, your networking, it's letting people know that the world, that what it is that you're doing in the world, all of this stuff that you're doing is really, really important for you to communicate. That's part of your promotion piece, right? And then when you're opening the conversation in the mind of the client and you're closing it in the sales function, obviously the operation and fulfillment function does whatever the job is, right? Your website maker or whatever. And then obviously the accounting function. So I just want you to think about those 4 core functions that have to be true in every single business. Now we're going to be talking about scaling. So in terms of this, the 4 core functions of business, we're going to be spending a little bit of time on lead generation. And this is where you're going to start to target your client avatar. And again, like I said earlier on, those 3 C's of business vision, your core purpose, core values, and client avatar. When you know your client avatar, you know exactly who you want to work with. And not only do you know exactly who you want to work with, you know who you're directing your marketing to. You know it's going to be interesting to them. So this is why it's really important for you to develop that client avatar and know who it is and what they're interested in. And these tend to bring you the clients with the most amount of money and bring you the least amount of drama. I'm telling you, when you start cutting back on price and giving up on your core values and start, just going against your own rules, telling you it will work against you almost every single time. So this is where you start to think about really getting clear on your client avatar. And this is where the lead generation function really matters. So I'm going to put these up on the screen, the 15 reasons why people buy. I'm going to take my giant dome out of the shot here for just a second. So these 15 reasons why people buy, these are really, really important. And what I want you to do is I want you to take a screenshot of these. And I want you to think about how people make money and save time, avoid effort, escape pain, having more comfort or better health, feel more love, gain praise, increase their status. People buy for truth. And by the way, people buy for truth, especially if they have felt lied to in the past. But they will buy for growth. That might be personal growth, spiritual growth, right? They'll buy just because something's new. Sometimes they just want more perceived control in their life, or sometimes they just want to be in contribution to others. Okay, these are all really important things. And what I want you to do is I want you to take this list, and this is more homework. I know. Damn it, Mark. I just wanted you to do my business plan for me, right? Well, I'm sorry. It doesn't work that way. But the thing is, these are the 15 reasons why people buy. Are there more? Probably. I have no idea. But these 15 reasons that what I want you to do is I want you to put these down on maybe 15 sheets of paper or, maybe use front and back. I don't really care. But what I want you to do is I want you to think of all the ways that you help people make money. All the ways, directly and indirectly, how you help them make money. And then I want you to think of how all the ways, directly or indirectly, how you help people save money, right? And then do the same thing with saving time, avoiding effort, escaping pain, physical pain, emotional pain, spiritual pain, right? Providing more comfort, better health. You're like, I'm doing better health. I do financial planning. Yeah, but do you provide less stress? That's better health in my book, every day of the week and twice on Sunday. Right? Feel more love, gain praise, increase their status. I want you to think of all the ways, directly or indirectly, that your product or service helps deliver those things for them, directly or indirectly. Now, why would this matter? Because when you're going to start to market to them, these reasons that you're coming up with, you're going to use these things in your marketing because that's going to reach them. This is really, really hard to do if you don't have a good understanding of your client avatar. So if you don't have your avatar developed out yet, this is going to be almost impossible. But if you do have your avatar developed and you know your core purpose, Then you can start to think of how your product or service, how your offering helps them make money, save time, avoid effort, escape pain. Make sense? All right. So this is very good. So Alexandria, what are level 5 leader companies? A level 5 leader companies. Oh, you know what? I didn't do a good job of explaining that. A level 5 leader was a leader who operated at a very, very high emotional level, was very, very effective within their organization. So I apologize for not defining that any better than I did. That's what a level 5 leader. John Maxwell also talked about a level 5 leader, which was, he started out in the positional leader, which would go to the permissional leader, right? The productive leader, and so forth and so on. Well, the top level leader, that level 5 leader, is basically someone who is so effective because they brought people into their organizations and they developed other leaders. So that was John Maxwell's definition of level 5 leaders. Jim Collins just talked about a level 5 leader as someone who was very selfless, always put the organization first, did not have traits of narcissism or anything along those lines, but was really just a very, very good and effective leader. So that's what he referenced as a level 5 leader, right? So, let's see here. You guys are asking great questions. You guys are like my favorite. And I don't say that all the time. Are there different styles on how business owners operate their businesses between those who have business plans and not having business plans? Are there different styles on how business owners operate their businesses? Different styles. Yeah, I think to answer your question, Anthony, I think I know where you're going. The ones who have business plans and the ones who don't have business plans, ones are probably going to be more impulsive versus, and then just, again, flying by the seat of their pants. And that is fine for a while until you drive everybody nuts around you. Because I've worked with plenty of business owners who are extremely impulsive, and they would come in every day and disrupt the workflow with the idea of the moment. And that is extremely disruptive, especially when you have people working for you. So, this is where, one business owner, I said, once we write this stuff down, you can't change it, right? We can change it, but we can only change it once a year. He says, okay. I said, but if you change it, you have to write a $30,000 check. And he's like, what? I said, yep, that's, he's like, okay, right? For him, it was a financial thing. And he wasn't allowed to change it because he would do that all the time. And he had this established procedures and policies and infrastructure and processes. And he would try to change this stuff up based on a whim. So he wasn't very consistent. And unfortunately, he was just whipsawing his people all over the place and was driving people crazy. So I think that answer, I'm trying to answer your question because I'm not really sure I'm answering it the right way, but those are the biggest differences that I see is people who are far more impulsive versus people who are not, versus, as compared to who's using a business plan and who isn't. Alexandria, understood. Thanks for the clarification. Very good. What is novelty pertaining to? Novelty is just something new. Look, we've experienced novelty all over the place in terms of new and improved, right? The new and improved packaging on consumer goods. We just buy something because it's new. Be honest, how many of you went out and bought the latest iPhone? Now, I don't know how many of you have iPhones and how many of you have normal phones, but I have a normal phone and I couldn't care less as long as this thing works, right? My bride and everybody else in my family has an iPhone. I am the last holdout. But the thing is, there are people who cannot live without the latest version of something. Right? The latest iPhone, what iteration are they on? Like the 18 or something? I don't even know. But the point is, like, some people just want to buy something because it's new. So they'll buy something just because it's different, because it's novel. All right. So, very good. Vinny, both can sail. They just sail differently. Yes. Good way to put that, Vinny. Yep, absolutely, Anthony. You bet. Okay. So really good questions, guys. Okay, so the 4 core functions of business, again, when it comes to lead generation, everything needs to support your lead generation function. And here's the truth, is that you can have the the best, most efficient business. You can be a paragon of virtue. Your sales technique is so dialed in, you can sell ice to Eskimos and voting booths to Castro. And the reality is you can still starve. So you can never, ever take your foot off the gas when it comes to lead generation. And your lead generation activities are, honestly, if you're trying to grow your business, they need to be around 60 to 70% of your activities. If you're trying to scale your business, they need to be probably closer to 90%. And you probably have to have other people that are going to help you scale, because one person, it's almost always too much for one person, depending on the business. It just depends on what it is. So that's the lead generation function. So again, the sales function. So we talked about lead generation. And the reason I'm bringing that up is because in your business plan has to support your lead generation function. Like, you have to be defining that stuff now. You have to be thinking about that stuff now. So when you're talking about effective, or the sales function continues the conversation that started by the lead generation function. And it understands that effective selling is about finding solutions, not holding people's heads underwater until they say yes. So if you're going to get stuck in an operation, this is generally where you're going to get stuck. You're going to get stuck doing the thing, right? It's doing the coaching, or doing the, putting on the roofs, or building the websites, whatever it is. This is generally where people get stuck. If you're going to ignore something, you're generally going to ignore the accounting. And it generally goes something like this. Well, I've got more money in my bank account this month than last month. I must be doing okay. And I have an accounting degree, and I have said those very words. Okay. So don't feel bad. This is not judgment. This is confession. I just want you to feel that, okay, but you have to okay, yes, this is something for me to work on. But the reality is, are all of these things the same skill set? No, they're not the same skill set. This is why you need help. This is why you need to bring people into your organization. This is why you need to plan for bringing people in your organization, and people who align with your core values. So this is, again, we talked about this before, but core values is what defines company culture, and the company culture and the company brand are inextricably linked. So when you have a rock solid culture, and again, if you ever come to a strategic boardroom event, and you will see people with very aligned core values around strategic boardroom, because that's just who I attract. And I'm very clear about the type of people that I allow in my rooms. And I say allow, but I don't mean like I'm being a jerk about it. But if they're not a good fit for the core values, if they're not in alignment with my core values, I'm a pretty easy guy to get along with. But if they're not in alignment with my core values, there's plenty of people who I'm not their brand of tea. That's okay, right? That's totally fine. But this is why you have to be really clear. And again, this is about being magnetic. It's not about attracting everybody. Do magnets attract everything? No, magnets don't attract copper. They don't attract non-ferrous metals. They don't attract rocks. But guess what magnets also do? They attract metal, certain types of metal, but they also repel certain things, right? So magnets attract, but they also repel. And that's what a magnet does. And that's what you should be in your marketing. And that's what your company culture should help do. So core values also, I just want to make this quick point. Core values do create unity, and vision thrives in an environment of unity. And that's a really important consideration when you're thinking about those core values, again, as you're putting those together. The last piece here, as we put the fries in the bag on this, is the business plan is setting you up for success. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you. So this is broken down. I'm going to show you where you can go and get your free download for your business plan in just a hot second. But the way that it's broken out, first and foremost, it's broken out into 9 different sections, and it starts with industry. So it goes from industry to product or service, then your target market, right, which is kind of related to your client avatar, then your demographics and market size, which is, again, kind of what we talked about in terms of the geographics, demographics, and psychographics. We talked about the competition a little bit. Now, the competition is important, especially when you're looking to differentiate, because you don't want to have a Me Too product. So it is important to know what your competition is doing, or if you have any competition. If you're going to differentiate to the point where no one else is doing what you're doing, that's fine, but you still need to look at the competitive landscape to make sure that you see any threats on the horizon. The next component is the marketing strategy. Again, this goes into the strategic planning part, right? People, purpose, and promotion. What kind of marketing strategy are you going to take? The critical risks, your SWOT analysis, your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Your financial, which will involve both your business, your balance sheet and your income statements, your pro forma balance sheets and your pro forma income statements. Pro forma, if you've ever heard that, it just means projected. That just means it's just a fancy word for projected. So if you're not familiar with what a balance sheet or income statement is, please sign up for the financial literacy for business owners. Again, I'm having another one tonight in about 2 hours, actually, about 2 hours and 15 minutes. I'll be doing that next one. And then the next one is the metrics and milestones. Again, that goes back to the reporting function that we talked about at the R in the Viper methodology. So for those of you who would like to get a copy of the business plan, okay, it's free. You don't even have to enter your email address. It's very simple. Go to strategicboardroom.com. I'm going to take myself down because I want you to be able to see this. So this is what strategicboardroom.com looks like right here. So what you're going to do is you're going to go to the top right where it says courses and logins. And what you're going to do after you click on courses and logins from strategicboardroom.com is you're going to go down and you're going to scroll down until you see the free 9-step business plan template. You don't have to enter your email address or anything like that. You just click on it and then you can save it to your computer. So again, just to reiterate, go to strategicboardroom.com because some of you will ask. strategicboardroom.com. Go to courses and logins. Scroll down a little bit. Go to the free 9-step business plan template and you can just get it right from there. You don't even have to enter your email address or anything like that. It's just right there on the website. All right. So one other thing I just want to invite you guys to is to join the school community. If you like conversations like this, you're going to head over to school.com. I will go ahead and put that link in the comment section so you guys can join me there. There's no cost to join that as it is right now, but I may change that, like I said earlier on, just depending on the quality of the conversations and things that are happening in there, because I don't want a group of people that are going to be in there causing trouble or anything. I want it to be high quality. Let's see. Vinny's got a question. Another way to look at how business owners operate when they have different styles or priorities. Area with plan, without plan. Decision making, structured, intuitive, speed, moderate, fast. Oh, okay. I see what you're doing here. So, so in terms of the area, they either have a with a plan or without a plan. Right. Gotcha. Decision making, it's either structured or intuitive. Speed is moderate or fast. Scalability, high or limited. Stress level, low or higher. Investor readiness, strong or weak, adaptable. Right. Yep. Very good. Yeah, that's good. That's a good framework. Good for you. All right. Okay. So that is everything I have there. So if you'd like to join me at school.com/strategic boardroom, you can just head there. Again, like I said, I put the link in the show notes there. And I will be getting to a point right now. There's no investment required. You can be in there. I'm putting together a whole annual course in there that's going to be very, very granular. That's going to walk you guys through all the different components to pretty much everything I talked about tonight, including today, including some individual psychology things and some organizational psychology things. I couldn't put all this stuff together. So let's see. So that is the thing there. The strategicboardroom.com looks just like that. And that's it there. All right. So let's take this down. I've got a few minutes to answer some other questions. Otherwise I may have to defer you to school because I do have to, let's see here. I want to make sure I'm answering you guys' questions here. Hi Mark, I can't find the link to the free template on your website under courses. Should be there. It's specifically strategic. In fact, let me just double check on it right now. So strategicboardroom.com, courses and logins. You're going to scroll down past free courses and downloads, and it's a free 9-step business template. It says free 9-step business plan template. I'm looking at it right now. So you just go there. You have to scroll down a little bit. It's under free courses. So I promise you it's there. Let's see. Do I have another? Thank you for your time. Yep, absolutely, Sergio. Happy to help you. I'm glad that you could make it today. How do business owners stay motivated out with even a sale? Honestly, Benjamin, you stay with it. What's the alternative? Like, you don't give yourself an out. I mean, that really is it. Once you fully commit to something and there's no other way than success, you again, how do you get 6-pack abs? You go to the gym every day and you eat right, and well, really you get your abs in the kitchen, but you do the same things over and over, even when it's boring, even when you don't want to. And once you have a certain data set and you're not seeing results, then you might need to change things up a little bit. But most of the time, most business owners know probably 98 to 99% of what they need to do. They're just not doing it consistently, because consistency is a superpower and most people don't have it. Like common sense, right? Common sense is a superpower. So really, really good question. And also have someone to help hold you accountable, right? That's another thing that I do as a strategist is, or if you have a business coach or some other coach, probably not someone you're married to or someone you're in a relationship with. That should not be their role, right? Especially holding you accountable. But this is why paying someone, like if you know that someone's gonna be meeting you at the gym at 5:30 and you have to pay them whether you show up or not, that's a pretty high motivation for you to show up, especially if you're paying them like $100 a day or $1,000 a day. Okay. Vinny, do I have another webinar later today? Yes, I do. You can register for it on Eventbrite. Just go to eventbrite.com, look up for Strategic Boardroom, and I believe it is I think tonight is I apologize in fact, let me check on that real quick. Is for financial literacy. Financial literacy for business owners is what that one is. All right. There's that. Okay, good question. So thank you for everything. Thank you. And yep, there's another. Hold on one second here. Sorry, I'm starting to lose. Yep, absolutely, Josie. Good to see you again. Thank you. You have to scroll down half the page. Yep, thank you, Kat. Is there another one that would make the day? I'm not really sure what your question is, ProBuilt. Thank you for your time. You have amazing quotes as well. Oh, thank you. My staff calls them Delphiniisms, and I don't know if that's a good thing, but thank you. You are more than welcome, Jamie. I'm glad you could join. Okay, everybody, thanks so much for sticking around. I really do appreciate you. For those of you who signed up, you are going to get. I'm happy to join the next one on financial. Okay, cool. Yep. Just make sure you get signed up because you'll have to. I won't know who's. You might say, "Hey, I told you online." Go to the thing and sign up because it'll happen automatically. I won't know unless you sign up. So I'll see you in school if you are interested. If not, have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you next time in the boardroom. Take good care.